I don't have in my phone. Okay. I guess I should stop talking now, right, Phil?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. All right. I can mute myself if you like.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes.
Okay. Why was I seeing Tammy's name up there? And then the logo for a while and then nothing else.
Because she is here.
Oh, okay. And you just hadn't started yet. I thought I was missing something and you guys could hear me with a few words I might have said,
No, we're
always
good.
get frustrated. Okay. All
We are
right.
good.
I can mute myself now and we should be all
Yep,
right.
you
Good.
sure
Thank you.
can.
Anybody hear me?
Phil, would you prefer our video to be off too?
No, you can keep it on if you like.
I can
I
hear
like
you, Jack.
like to see some smiling faces.
Can anybody hear me?
I can, Jack.
Okay, there we go. Got to change the systems around. Hey,
You
Steve.
just got to get people adding some bass into their voice so you can hear them.
Yes. Who's talking?
Steve,
That would be
Steve,
Jeff.
see my
He's got
background?
Oh,
bass in his
Jeff. Hi,
voice.
Jeff.
Hey.
Okay.
Steve,
All
you
right.
recognize that background of mine?
Oh, that
That was-
picture there? That's pretty.
Yeah, you took that picture like my first weekend of diving on the preservation
Great.
Nice.
back then. That was like 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah, you can tell people that there's two dive sites they're looking at right here. You got the Gold Bluff on the Golden Point on the
Behind?
Gold Rock Point on the far end, and you got the cave underneath the stand where that fence is on the right there. And then there's a lot of money people throw over by the lighthouse,
Yeah.
throw into the water. All right, I'm gonna mute myself. Phil's getting ready to go.
I gotta get rid of something. This. Okay. Looks like we counted down to the exact second to start this meeting. Isn't that amazing? We're starting on time. So, welcome everyone to the 2023 annual general membership meeting for the Great Lakes Shipwreck Preservation Society. 27 years of learning, maritime preservation, and adventure. And it's presented by Phil Kerber, the president, although there'll be a few other people that will be maybe talking. The agenda for the evening: introductions for our staff, committees, committee chairpersons, 2023 programs and projects in review, and then the 24 programs and projects proposed. The Upper Midwest Scuba Adventure Travel Show and some of the changes this year, GLSPS website, officers' elections. Thank you to the volunteers and tonight's guest speaker. And we'll start off, of course, with the staff. Board of Directors, Phil Kerber, President, Jeff Lemoyne, the first Vice President. And you'll see me write in some of the programs they're involved in. Dean Soderbeck, second Vice President. Andrew Goodman is the treasurer. Ken Merriman is our secretary this year. I think it was the first time he has ever been secretary. It's amazing for the godfather of the GLSPS, of course, but he's doing a great job. Ken Knudsen, both Ken Merriman and Ken Knudsen are the founding members of the GLSPS, by the way. Just want to recognize that. Jack Decker, our distant board of director. He used to be in Clear Lake, and he's made a jump to the West Coast in California, sunny California. And Mary Lillimo, a director, one of the first ladies to join us on the board of directors. And Lisa Weiss, also one of the ladies that has joined us on the board of directors as well. And they're both serving on the committee for the UMSAT show, although Mary is the chairperson. And of course, our project leaders. We have a few project leaders, either now or in the past, or hopefully in the future. We have Jack Decker, Tim Pronke, both Corey and Steve Daniel, myself, Jerry Eliason, Jeff Lemoyne, Dean Soderbeck, Andrew Goodman, and Ken Merriman. Is 3D photogrammetry. Committees, start off with fundraising. Of course, we need to have some sort of funds to keep our society or organization afloat. So we do that by apparel and some books. And we have the North Shore Dive Guide, the SS Meteor book, and the Diving Pioneers and Innovators. And I just want to mention that that's becoming maybe a little bit more valuable since we lost our good friend, Brett Gilliam. He passed away this year. And of course, we do have some of these books left. So if you're interested in purchasing one, we do have some. Membership dues and corporate sponsors. There are 6 levels of membership. Each level has a family extension, so invite your family. Up to 4 people. UMSAT show is a fundraiser. I used to say major fundraiser, but as you know, everybody knows, certain shows are shrinking, and ours is no exception. That's why grants are going to be important, the coastal and legacy, and other volunteer matching programs from members that work or worked for a larger corporation. Committees, I'm just going to whip through this because we are kind of limited on time. I got to make sure this goes for 30 minutes. National Register of Historical Places, the documentation and survey projects for the 3D photogrammetry, including monitoring projects that also involve 3D photogrammetry and drawings. Don't forget about the drawings and how important they are. And we do need some people to be part of this, like project leaders. So please let us know, let me know if you're interested. Access Committee, that's for our buoys over here. We have to install the buoys on our shipwrecks along the North Shore. RV Preservation Research Vessel, huge committee, and I hope it becomes a little better because right now we're only have about 2-3 people working on that poor boat. Although I will say, the RV Preservation is a well-maintained vessel. Believe it or not, we do work on it, and we don't allow anything to happen to it. That's how adamant we are with it, and that's what the committee does. GLSPS website, I'll talk about that later, but there's a new look to the website, thanks to Andrew Goodman. Our membership committee, we are always trying to get new members and make sure the ones that we do have, they renew. So if you have to renew, please renew. Safety and Training Committee, always a great thing to follow our safety protocols. So we have to have a committee, and we do have a committee meeting once a year. Put It Back program, important to return those old artifacts that people have taken before 1987 or 88. I can't remember what year. But, and then the Grant Writing Committee, we need people for that as well. I'm understanding we're letting a lot of grants go by us that we could take advantage of, and we do need some people to write them. So, and I believe our guest speaker will be talking a little bit about that tonight. 2023 programs and projects in review. I'm just going to go through this real fast and then highlight a few in some later slides. So, but we always start out the year with many meetings in January. Every Tuesday is a meeting, Tuesday night. Go through different meetings like, of course, the board of directors, the UMSET show, the safety committee. What else do we have? Of course, can't think of them off the top of my head, but there's many meetings we do. You can check it out on our calendar of events. And then we always start our diving with an ice dive. Of course, this year it was canceled because of poor ice conditions and visibility, mainly ice conditions. UMSAT show, and it was March 24th and 25th. And the 19th annual SS Media Project, April 29 and 30. And then all the BSA, Boy Scouts of America, Venture Crew 820, where they have the Lake Phelan cleanup dive and many other things that they do, which I'll talk about in a little bit. RV Preservation Research Vessel Maintenance, that's through the whole month of May. And then we launched it in June 3rd. And we had some, of course, captain's training that we do annually. And then during, or should I say after, the Gales of November conference, we did Tarpit, which was a couple of weeks ago. Cruise to Silver Bay dive, excuse me, to dive and install buoys. We always install them on the way up and take them off on the way back. And it was June 19 and 20 for our trip up there. That was a good trip. Grand Marais Harbor survey, unfortunately, that got canceled because of weather. Weather was pretty bad that weekend, and so we had to cancel it and didn't have an opportunity to reschedule it for this year. But I believe we're going to do it next year again. Madeira and Hesper Monitoring Project, always a project that goes through because it's in July and August. Great time to be out on Lake Superior. Into the shipwreck diving. We had to cancel that as well because I think it was because of a lack of interest or a lack of participation. So if you know anybody, any kids or anything, talk to Dean Soderbeck. He just loves this stuff. He would like to bring you out on the boat and have you get an experience of diving on a shipwreck for the first time. Victoria Monitoring and Survey Project, unfortunately, that got canceled this year too because of a lack of participation, people canceling at the last minute. I'm afraid that I was one of those. I apologize for that. But it's a great project. I never want to miss it, but I had some business issues this year to take care of, and I didn't get out. It was, however, switched to the Sugar Loaf Cove Monitoring Project, which is a little bit north of Silver Bay. It was only 3 days rather than the 4 or 5 that we usually have it. Fun dives. I just love the fun dives. I'm always the one running the boat, the captain on the boat, and Jack Decker is usually the project leader, but he had shuffled off to California by then, and he couldn't use him as a project leader, although I still did do it. We had a little fun, and we had a little bad weather at first. And so we do some touring, and we get out and do some touring. It's great fun. And you see the Split Rock Lighthouse down here with a few of us. And I guess it was around 6 o'clock. It finally cleared up, and we went out. I went out at night because I enjoy driving a boat at night. I have no problem with that, especially with the instrumentation we have. So we went out diving, dove till dark, came back in the dark. It was a fun dive. Basket weaving, unfortunately, I think that was canceled. I'm not sure. I think it was. I believe it was. Shake your head, Demon, if you think it was. I think it was.
Canceled.
Okay. I couldn't remember if you said it was canceled or not, but I did put that in there just in case. RV Preservation cruise back to Duluth, and we do remove the buoys, although we do have affiliate that helps us, Hans from the dive charters up there. He wanted to keep them up for a little bit longer, so he removed them for us, which is kind of nice. And then the McDougall's Dream fundraiser event, I was able to attend that this year because the Thomas Wilson and Mayflower Monitoring Project both of those were canceled because of really poor visibility from the St. Louis River flowage. that turned the water like chocolate brown. Maybe that describes it. But anyway, we had to cancel that, so I was able to be at the fundraiser. The underwater pumpkin carving through BSA. That's where it was actually October 1st or the last weekend of the Thomas Wilson project. So they all should have went diving from shore, and would have been fun. So that's all the, let me go back here. So these are all the projects we did this year. As you can see, there's a lot of projects that were canceled, unfortunately. But if you're interested in any of these, please register for these projects. They're really great projects. And most of them are canceled probably because of lack of participation. I think it was just an odd year. They're saying it's an odd year, but please register. Just a little quick note on Amazon Smile and their donations. They used to have a program where they would give nonprofit organizations some money, like 0.5% of all sales. They have discontinued that. However, I just wanted to say that if you could throw in some donation money here and there, $5, $10, $20, whatever, that would help a little bit. And you can do that by the front page here where it says donations. And I'm not sure if you can, yeah, there's a donation button right here. And you can donate to any project, 3D photogrammetry, our boat, the RV preservation, research vessel, or more. There's other places you can donate. So if you have a little extra, change popping around your pockets that you want to get rid of, there's a place to bring it or put it. So push that donations button. It is a tax deductible donation, by the way. 23 UMSAT show. We did go back to the mermaid event. We were there in 2010, and now we went back just to try it out. But the venues are very expensive for our show. We of course had to move it because of that again this year, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But as far as the 23 UMSAT show speakers, we had, of course, Brendan Baylod, Amy Rosenbro, I hope I pronounced that properly, Michael Raymond, Jeff Lemoyne, Andrew Goodman, our own two board of directors that do a lot of adventure. And so they are giving a talk on their adventures. And we did have an online auction, which is sponsored by eBay, which we've been doing the last few years, and it's working real well. We had an expo with exhibitors. We had a few more this year, which kind of turned out all right. And we did have an awards luncheon. However, we only had one award recipient. Mr. Bob Nelson was one of our own board of directors. We gave him an award for the GLSPS Appreciation Award for dedication to the GLSPS since 1998. So if you have somebody to nominate them. Otherwise, I guess this year we may not have this award if we don't have any nominations. 3D photogrammetry project that we started in 2019 for collecting data and 3D models and uploading to the website that was created for it. And Ken Merriman is the chairman of the program. And he provides, a lot of the processing and the creating of the 3D models, images. And after Andrew Goodman, of course, records them with many of the time-lapse videos that he has put together. We got him swimming all over, I guess. The other thing we added now is we're now adding whaleback models to the SS Media Museum ship, right through the little holes of the what do they call them? The ballast tanks. And
it's the hold liner.
The what? I'm sorry.
The hold liner.
Hold liner.
Not
okay.
ballast tanks.
To use the proper term, like Dale mentioned. Thank you, Dale. And here's one of them. This one wasn't quite finished at the time this photo was taken, but it looks different than this in its little spot that Dale had created for it. And so there are approximately 200 images uploaded. I believe there might be more. And you can see them at 3dshipwrecks.org. And to talk a little bit more about some projects, I'm only going to highlight a couple. One is the SS Meter Preservation Project, which is my project, and that's why I'm highlighting it, because I can. Just kidding. But anyway, we have on the average about 50 to 60 a lot of times. This one's a little bit short of, I think it's about 45 maybe. But we're just getting off the pandemic, the COVID times, and so we're slowly getting all these people back again. And we did a lot of work this year. Just to highlight a couple of little things, we did create a new program through Google. We had a Google account on it. We have every possibility of every project we did. It's all archived of what we did in each room and what we did, what we used, everything. It's on a spreadsheet, so we can keep track, archival projects to let everybody know what we actually did on it from the beginning of when it started. And of course, right here, you see this photo here of the snow. We always start out the year in the beginning of the spring and the beginning of April, actually. And it always greets us with a bunch of snow, like 10 feet of it or more. And so we have to order a payloader to clean it all out so that we can get in the ship to do our scouting trip to go through what it needs to be done. And then we create these lists here that you see to the next photos to the right. And they're in big, large formats. So we hang them up on the walls and we check off each little project that we get done. And, such as this couple projects, in the pilot room or the pilot house. And like the cleaning of all the brass. We do that every year because it does kind of lose its shine over the summer. And then Dale over here is looking at the jacking gear, and pretty soon we'll have that engine turning over. I believe it's on its last part of its project, and we'll be hopefully getting that thing to turn over so everybody can see it again. And we have folks that like to pose, and there's Pat giving us a little hi, how you doing? And I believe that's Mac down at the other end. I think he was standing next to the heater because it was cold that day. He had his hands in his pocket and he looked cold. And I know there was a heater down there, so I think he was warming up. And then Dean over here mixing some mud in his pan, and in a discussion going on here with Steve and Tony Musial and Aaron, the new maintenance guy for the SPM. So they're having fun over there, but this is a major project. So if you're interested in it, it's always last weekend in April. Please come join us. We have a lot of fun. And the BSA Venture Crew 820 youth programs. We always include them because we all want to have the youth come in and do some scuba diving. And Dean has facilitated that to make sure young kids that are interested will come and join him. And we have these 4 programs associated with it. And unfortunately, the intro to shipwreck diving was canceled this year, but we got to get that going again because people really enjoy it. I mean, when I see the kids come out of the water after seeing that shipwreck for the first time, they got eyes like silver dollars, and they just want to go again. They don't care how cold they are. They just want to go again. So we have fun with that. And thanks to Dean Soderbeck. And others. I'm sorry, Jeff Lemoyne is also involved in that too. So, RV Preservation Research Vessel. Again, I talked about this earlier, but we take the whole month of May to prepare it for the season. We had a lot of painting, including a few upgrades. Still always needs a lot of painting. As you can see, the paint here on the roof kind of peeled off right down the last layer of paint. So we painted that nice and white this year. And you see Tim Pronke and Jim Christensen. We're doing that project, and it worked out good. And here's our launch day over here, and this is sitting at Silver Bay, and I believe this is when we cruised up the North Shore to bring it to Silver Bay. And then, of course, at the end, our sad moment when we have to cover it up for the season. And we did some bottom surveying on it this year and passed with flying colors, but we also did a survey in 2022 and found out that our 120 volt system is not passing the Coast Guard requirements. So we had to completely rewire the whole 120 volt system, and we installed a new 3000 watt inverter, which really works well. to power everything that's on boat. And it works very well, including 2 larger alternators, which keep our large batteries going. So we have the system working pretty well. So you can go on the website and check out our project archive to make sure you know what we do on this thing to keep it going every year. It's quite a list. And if you're interested, please let us know. We're glad to have you. 2024 projects and programs proposed. You can please check the 2004 project schedule on the front page. Again, it's different on the page now, so you just go into the calendar and see what's what went on. You can go and see what's going to happen in the future. We try to keep that up to date. But I'll talk a little bit more about the website in a little bit. But we're going to try to start an ice dive depending on ice conditions this year. And the new show is at March 23rd. It's at the Hamel Medina Community Center. First response, we're going to have a class because we do that every other year. We're due to do it in 2024. The 20th annual SS Media Project will be April 27, 28, again, the last weekend in April. And it's the 20th year anniversary, maybe. Maybe we'll have a little celebration, some cake, and maybe some adult beverages. You never know. RV preservation preparation, we always do that every year in the captain's training. We do that mainly via Zoom now, but then we do the hands-on training right after we launch it. BSA youth groups, we're going to have the youth groups again. We're going to try to get that going, I believe. Dean, we're going to shoot for that. And then we're going to try to fill the boat for the intro shipwreck diving. We got to get that going. I'd like to show the young people, a shipwreck. And I like to say, you can't forget what they see when they come up. I mean, you see them all excited and they want to go again. I love that part. Lake Fail and the basket weaving and a pumpkin carving for BSA. Those are all shore dives. Great little dives if you can't join us on any other thing. Shipwreck hunting. We're going to try to go do that. We tried to do that the last couple of years, but I guess timing is a little bit off, but hopefully we'll get something going with that. It's a proposed weekend project or program. The RV preservation, it cruises up and back to Silver Bay every year. It's an ongoing project. 3D photogrammetry will continue at the Apostle Islands this year with Ken being closer to home and with his own yacht, the Hey Boy. And we also will be going there, hopefully, with the RV preservation for the Pretoria Survey and Monitoring Project. Maybe we can, if we're both there at the same time, maybe we can collaborate. We're doing Hesper Monitoring Project every year project. We do need a project leader as we are losing one for next year. SB Ely, there's a construction project we're trying to plan for because we have some broken rods that are holding up the sides of the ship, and hopefully it doesn't flay out again like it could if we don't replace it. We're going to work on that. Our fun dives. Now anybody can do this fun dive. You can gather up maybe dive shops. You can gather up some friends, maybe scuba clubs, and of course other GLSPS members. And it's July, August. We only have one. We can make 2. We can make 3 if we want. And all depending on how many people are interested. And the other issue we are running into, and we only have 2 captains to run the boat for next year. So we're going to need to get somebody interested in that. Thomas Wilson, Mayflower Monitoring Project. We do that in September and October, last part of September, early part of October. We're going to hope for the best weather. We're going to hope for the best visibility. We hope it comes up or works out to be a better year. And maybe it won't rain as much before this project. Pardon me. Royal 3D photogrammetry was talked about, but I think the National Park Service has already done this, but maybe it's that we need our own photogrammetry images. I'm not sure, I'm not totally sure about this, but it was talked about, and we'll have to talk more about it, I guess. Other projects, if you have a project you are interested in having us do a project, or you want to be a project leader, give us some ideas. It's open. You can plan your own project. There is a project planning packet I created and I uploaded to the website. You can download it and start your project, get it all planned out and present it to the board by January 16th. And we'll take a look at it and approve it if it's worthy of a project, I guess. And our 2024 Upper Midwest Scuba Adventure Travel Show, which is going to be March 23rd. It's only going to be one day. Unfortunately, we had to kind of downsize it a little bit because it's shrinking. And we're going to have it at a community center in Medina, Minnesota, in my neck of the woods. That's where I live. So I'm kind of excited about that. Super excited, maybe. But hopefully it'll work out. And the show chairperson is Mary Lillimole. And speaker lineup so far, I think we have Rick Mixter, Eric, and I'm going to chop this name up, but Petkovic, and then Mark Manthe, Scuba Sally, and other local speakers. We're working on about 5-6 speakers. Like I say, the venue is a little bit smaller this year. There'll be less exhibitors with only a few dive shops, scuba clubs, and maybe one or two, maybe one travel agency if we have enough room. So to keep you informed on the UMSAT show, please go to the UMSAT show website at umsatshow.org or send us an email, info@umsatshow.org. The website, it's interactive with the members, and check out the new look of the website. I tried to put one of those up as far as a photo here, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But check it out when you get a chance. You know, all the events are on the front landing page, including all the local dive shop events with both local and adventure dive trips, you know, the out of town Caribbean and everything. So if you're interested in traveling, they have all of that up. We have all that up for them sponsoring our, you know, or being good supporters of the GLSPS is what I meant to say. And we do announcements with emails of programs and projects and events coming up. The calendar of events and project schedule, make sure you look at that. And then, of course, register for a project if you're interested in any of it. You can read about all the stuff we do. You know, all the different things we do on these projects are amazing. We have great fun on them. You just can't miss it. Training classes, we're going to have 1 or 2 of them this year, we're hoping, and you can sign up for those. There's always details on project reports, you know, like the project archives, including photo and video links about any of the projects. If we do create photo links, and if we do have video links, we don't always take a video of our projects, but if we do, they are there. Membership renewals, you can do that online or by mail. Unfortunately, I got to warn you, by mail is slow as horse and buggy days. It takes a month or so to get that processed. Otherwise, if you renew it online, you can get it like within days. We also encourage new members and miscellaneous donations right online. And of course, you can do this access anywhere, anytime, any device. It is mobile friendly now, or more mobile friendly, thanks to Andrew. He made it more mobile friendly. And do not forget, we broadcast all meetings, Zoom. So see the event calendar, go to the links, sign up as or I should say log in as a member, and just go to the calendar date, click on it, and in the description, it'll give you the Zoom link, and you can join us for the meeting. So tune in once in a while. We really would appreciate that you do. Board of Directors elections. And the candidates this year, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. We have a total of 9 members. We only needed 4 this year to meet the 9-member requirement. So the candidates this year were Jeff Lemoyne, he actually renewed his spot. And Ken Merriman. What did we do without the godfather of the GLSPS? And we have Lisa Weiss she was on the board of directors for the last 2 years, got 7 votes. Mary Lillemole, 18, and a newcomer, John Connolly, at 17. So I believe if we only need 4, I'm thinking if we have 10 board of directors, and we could use Lisa, but if we only need 4, then I'm afraid that Lisa might have lost her spot on the board. But we'll see. I don't know we'll have to have a discussion. So congratulations to the new and re-elected board members. And I can't say this enough, but thank you for serving as a GLSPS board of director. If you're coming in or going out, we really appreciate that you take your time. And our last one of the last slides here. Thank you for volunteering. The board of directors I went through earlier. You know who they are. The project leaders, I went through those earlier. Committee and other people. Dick Geezy, I wanted to point out, we had just lost him as well this year, and I believe it was in the end of September, early part of October, I believe. I'm not sure the date, but he did a lot of work for us on our boat for the RV preservation. He was a machinist, and he created a lot of parts for us, and we will definitely miss him for that. So thank you, Dick, for your time. Jim and Tyler Christian are always out to help us, mainly at the end of the year and at the beginning of the year and at the show. Jim Christensen, one of our other supporters, we're going to kind of bug him to be captain too. Ken Merriman and Jerry Eliason, Shipwreck Hunters, Carrie and Craig David. They're boat people. They always help us on our boat. They also help us on the SS Meteor. Mary and Ken Lillemole, they're always good to volunteer for many things. They volunteer for other organizations as well. Dale Cozio helps us on a boat. He has helped us with some expenses. He's a Facebook moderator and other. He's always out to help. He's a great guy to know and great guy to have in our organization. And I can't forget about the members. We got crew, watchmen, bosuns, helmsmen, mate, and plank owners. We appreciate all of you that have financially supported the GLSPS. And of course, whoever I missed, I'm sure I missed somebody or several people, but I wanted to thank you all for being volunteers for the GLSPS. And thank you for your time and support. And here is one of my favorite photos. The photo is by Christian Dahlbeck. Did a really good job. I believe I think it was in winter when I see there's ice on it. But this is a picture you just don't see very often. I couldn't find anyone like it, but I really liked it. But on that note, I'm going to say, are there any questions or discussions on any of the items that I have? And I'm running a little late, of course, by 5 minutes because we wanted to get our guest speaker up. But any questions? No discussions? Oh, okay.
Bill, it's Steve.
Steve, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's good to see that we're getting other folks rather than the regular few that have been constantly on the board. And it would be nice to keep refreshing that over time with new faces.
Mhm.
And I think this is really good to see. So I'm glad people are getting involved.
Great. I agree. Thank you, Steve. Anyone else? All right. Then we'll just move right in to tonight's guest speaker. And Tammy, I gotta say, I put this up just for you. I know it was your latest drawing, I believe. It's the most current. Am I right on
One
that?
of them, yeah.
Okay,
they-
one of them.
Entire south end of Hedgehog Harbor. Yeah.
Yes, and thanks to your colleague, Mr. Tim Bronke, told me that, yeah, this would probably work. So he sent that in Facebook Messenger, and I said, yes, that will work. So I got it up at the last minute, and I just thought you'd enjoy that. Got your little picture over here, and that picture you sent, I haven't seen that one, so I thought it'd be a good place to put it up. So tonight, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I share my screen, or are you guys?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of introduce a little bit
All
here.
right.
I'm not done yet, but I'll get you going in just a minute. But Tamara Thompson, Wisconsin Historical Society, is here tonight to give us a presentation on the protecting ships and shipwrecks, the National Register of Historical Places and National Landmark Destinations. I hope I said that right. And and just to give you a little background, I think most of you know Tamara, and I just want to say Tamara Thompson is a maritime archaeologist and Wisconsin Historical Society's Maritime Preservation Archaeology Program. Her work has resulted in 70 National Register and Historical Places actions. She has received awards from the Association of Great Lakes Maritime History, the Great Lakes Shipwreck Preservation Society, Wisconsin Historical Society, and in 2014, she was introduced to the Women's Divers Hall of Fame. So anyway, welcome, Tamara. I appreciate you speaking tonight for us. So you are up, and I'm going to stop my share and then give you the share.
All right. Give me a second here to get this up.
Okay.
We are here. There we go. Does everybody see that?
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
Okay. So yeah, so isn't this the greatest bedtime story for you? I'm going to talk about governmental policy. So let's see people start dropping off, right? So I'm going to talk about the differences between National Register nominations and why we do them. And then there were some questions that came up about national landmark status. And so hopefully I'll be able to answer those too. And if you have a question and you want to pop in, you can interrupt me. I mean, I think there's only a few of us here and we can make this pretty informal, but I'm going to try to cruise kind of along and give you some examples of what I'm talking about here. So when I talk about preservation, I'm housed in the State Historic Preservation Office, and they use preservation as far as affecting laws, both state and federal, to protect resources. And in our case, it's submerged cultural resources. So shipwrecks and, other things that live on the bottom of our lakes and riverways. So and I'm going to talk a lot about Wisconsin, but I do know a little bit about Minnesota as well. So, and they're very much parallel as far as the way the laws are set up. Same with Michigan. So in the state of Wisconsin, we have burial laws, and we have archaeological site protection laws that date back to 1966. So you had said, Phil, earlier that 1987, when the Abandoned Shipwreck Act was passed, that's not necessarily true. That's the federal law that comes in. So in an effect, if it had been enforced, our laws were there in 66, which protected shipwrecks from being looted. Does that say that it was enforced? Not really. Or in some cases, yes, but those laws were there for us to use. Okay. If you look at Michigan was 1957. So even before us. So you're seeing the state laws come in early. A lot of times with shipwrecks, they're not only archaeological sites, and that's how they're classified and protected, but if someone died on them and their remains still are with the shipwrecks themselves, then these burial laws come into play. So that makes it an even stronger case against looting or damage to shipwrecks. Now, of course, you know that everything that you do has this layering effect of laws. So if you have the state law, and then you can also affect a federal law with it, that makes your case stronger for being able to protect the shipwreck. And so we have a number of those different laws which we can use. So we have the Antiquities Act of 1906, the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. This act actually brings in the state historic preservation offices for all of the states. And then it also creates the office that I live under, but also creates the National Register of Historic Places. We have national marine sanctuaries being developed in 1972. And this starts with, the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary that's out off Cape Hatteras. And now we have a national marine sanctuary here in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Shipwreck Coast National Marine Sanctuary. So this allows swaths of our shoreline, our submerged resources, to be protected under sort of a blanket of this federal layer of laws. And then we have the Abandoned Shipwreck Act of 1987, and it comes in. And when it was initiated, amongst other things, let me see if I can get myself to go here on the next slide. There we go. That it was, very, very much saying that if it's on state bottom lands, then it's federal property that's managed by the state, and it then breaks it down into whether it was embedded in submerged lands that are owned by the state, or is it embedded in coralline structure. Let's forget the other two for right now. So those come in a little bit later. So embedded in coralline structure, of course, we have no coral here. So that doesn't apply to us. But embedded in submerged lands, well, how embedded is embedded? And this was a large discussion when this first came out. And, you and I can probably argue that in court all day long. And in fact, they did. So in 1998, it went to federal court in Ehorn versus the state of Wisconsin. And that was over a porthole that had been removed from the luxury yacht Racinko by a gentleman named Paul Ehorn, who lives in Illinois. And it went to trial. And the state of Wisconsin did not respond in a timely enough manner. So the shipwreck, the ownership of the shipwreck was granted to Paul Ehorn. I went to appeal, and the case was overturned, and it went to the state. And the additional provisions of determined eligible or listed on the National Register of Historic Places came in. So again, he was arrested with the porthole in 98, and this ran through the court system. So in 2002, our office changed the way that we do business. So every time we go out and look at a shipwreck, it's to determine eligibility. So, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So this is the Racinko. This is the yacht. It sank in, it's like 180 feet of water off Racine. It was subsequently listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It was determined that yes, this indeed is in or on state bottom lands. How embedded really didn't matter because it was determined eligible and then subsequently listed to the National Register. Okay, so how do we determine whether they're eligible? Well, back in the as I had listed that number of federal laws, when they established the National Register, there's actually a person who is the keeper of the register. He's a National Park Service employee and has a full office, and they have they have guidelines, how to list ships and shipwrecks to the National Register and what would qualify them. You can go online, you can look at this guidance, which has been updated a couple of times, but this is what it looks like if you've got it in paper form. And it will tell you, you know, all the qualifications and what you can, you know, what's the determining factors. A major one for shipwrecks is integrity. It's like how much is still there, how much has been removed. So again, about 2002, we changed course and we sort of corrected to not just doing archaeology for the sake of doing archaeology or understanding our resources for the sake of doing them, but it changed to prioritizing whether we could determine them eligible or list them on the National Register. So we have these sort of two tiers of things. And that's why when I say, when you introduce me and you say you have had 70 National Register actions, well, that's because that's what I do for a job. If I didn't have 70, I wouldn't be doing my job. So we in Wisconsin, again, before my time, they went through all the records, and this number is a moving target, but they determined that there were 780 historic vessel losses in our waters. Of them, we only have a little over 200 which have been located, more this year than any other year, I think. But this is a management problem because there were historically 1.5 of us in the office, and now there are 2 of us plus an intern who's comes and goes on a 4-month rotation. So it's still, in a statewide program, really hard to deal with, and that's why we bring in volunteers and we do training to be able to help us do this job in affecting these laws. Okay, so again, we have more individually listed shipwrecks on the National Register of Historic Places because this is our plan. And again, it was forced onto us because of this federal lawsuit with Mr. Ehorn, and that's why we do it. Why other states don't do it, and they do it more as a, kind of an honor to have this shipwreck listed, or I don't know, is beyond me, because I don't think that they're doing their job and they're doing the right thing by their resources. So we have 86 shipwrecks that are currently listed to the National Register, and there are various levels that you can list them. You can list them at a local level, at a state level, or at a national level of significance. And we have none that are listed at the national level. Actually, we have one that's listed at the national level. I'm going to take that back. It's the Lakeland. But all of the other shipwrecks are listed either at the state or the local level as far as their significance value. And 10 of those shipwrecks come in through archaeological districts. So these are sort of pier complexes, or one is where there's a lighthouse and there's sort of this conglomeration of ships which is banged up and stacked up on top of each other. And so we have 10 that come into that total of 86 through districts. So instead of listing them individually, we're listing them outside of an individual, or sort of in a conglomeration instead of in an individual thing. So the way that we do business is that we go out, and whenever there's a new, we certainly have a backlog still. We have not gotten through all the known shipwrecks, but whenever there's a new shipwreck, we go out and we'll assess it. In a lot of cases, that means that we are finding money and we're finding personnel that can dive to whatever depth it is, or if it's too deep, we bring in ROVs to work, and put a baseline down the center, and we do detailed drawings of the shipwrecks. This is if they're in a diveable range. Okay. And the reason that we do this is this allows us to collect a lot of detail and to understand exactly how the ship was constructed, any kind of artifacts there are there, and to really understand the resource. So we've gotten to the point where 2 of us can get on a shipwreck and draw it to scale in about a day and a half. So, and to that extreme detail. If it's a broken up shipwreck and there's some scatter and I've got more people than that, then we can probably get it done in one day. So the drawings look about like this. So again, it's a scaled, detailed drawing. Everything is understood, because again, you're not just drawing it and you're not just visualizing what this is, but you have to write a description of each one of these components, because that needs to go into the register. So the deck beams, let's say, you know, what their width and thickness is, what their spacing is, how, you know, how they were positioned along the centerboard trunk and so on. That level of detail. Photogrammetry has its place, again, as far as getting into the public and having them visualize the shipwreck. But for National Register nomination, it provides a visualization, but it does not replace the detailed site descriptions. Even with scales in here, the tool is not accurate enough to be able to give you descriptions. Now, that's to say, you know, we've been pushing the limit on what is allowed with the register. And for a while, they were not allowing any of this. You had to do a drawing. And we started saying, well, you know, those that are in the you know, kind of the tech recreational range, you know, that 150 to 250 foot range, you can dive on them, but you just can't put enough time on them. And we're not doing this, you know, spending a lifetime on one shipwreck to be able to you know, meet your standard. And then there are those that are beyond diving range, you know, and yeah, someone can dive to 300 feet, someone can dive to 400 feet, but are they going to go down there and do scaled drawings? Probably not. So we would put robotics to be safer and more economical. And they were allowing those to go in too. So again, we've sort of pushed the issue on what is allowed. If there are artifacts that are associated with the shipwreck still there, we try to catalog those as best as possible. Sometimes we'll remove them and photograph them individually. A lot of times we'll leave them in situ and just take measurements and a detailed catalog of what's on the shipwreck. We don't tag it or anything. We lead with information and try to have people understand the value of leaving the artifacts in place. Not only is it against the law, but it's also, you know, it doesn't leave the shipwreck in a like new state for someone else to discover when they come along, and for the next generation to come. It should be new to them as well. And again, if we can't dive to it and we can't handle it in a day, then we have to fundraise and through grants and gifts and so on, and also through partnerships. This is an ROV called Pixel, which was made by Marine Imaging Technologies, Evan Kovac's company, and he brought this in to look at the Senator for us. So we were looking at the cars on the Senator with us, and then Crossman donated some time on his boat, and we tested the strength of his crane. So, okay, so once you decide that a shipwreck is eligible for the National Register, and you decide to collect all of this data and put it together, and you decide what level of significance and what is significant for, then it goes through a whole process. And a lot of people don't understand that either. So it will first go to the State Historic Preservation Office. I told you that I work in there, but I work down the hall. There's actually somebody in the office that's assigned to National Register nominations, and they go through them and they make sure you know, your burden of proof meets their level of criticism, and you go back and forth with them a little bit. And so that's called the National Register Coordinator, and her name is Elizabeth in Wisconsin. So and then from there it goes to there's a quarterly review board. These are governor appointed representatives that can sit on this board. Most of the time they have expertise in history, architecture, archaeology, and, you know, those type of things. And they'll sit on this review board for a 3-year term. which is, 3 years to life. They can sit on it until they want to get off or until the governor wants them off. And if they approve, you present to them in a quarterly basis, first come, first serve. So if there's other people before me in line, I don't get in every quarter, but I try to, continue sliding them in as I can. And then once it's approved by the board, then it goes to the State Historic Preservation Officer, who gets the ultimate decision whether it's going to be listed on the state register of historic places. So we have a list stateside, and then once it's added to that list, so the State Historic Preservation Officer is the keeper of the register. And once she approves that, her name is Dinah Pincutis here in Wisconsin. Once she approves that and signs off on the nomination, it is then sent to the National Park Service and it goes through the process again. So the feds have their own review board and experts that review these things, and we get comments back on them. And then ultimately, if it passes their scrutiny, then it is listed to the National Register. So that's why, if I go out tomorrow and I go look at a shipwreck and I'm lucky enough to not have like a 50-year history to have to research on this thing, I can write it up and get it turned around in about a month. Get it into the process. It may sit there for, a quarter or 2 quarters before it sees the board. And then you're looking at a year and a half before it sees the register. So everything is in the pipeline and it keeps going, but it's not necessarily that quick of a process. I thought you'd be interested in seeing what our form looks like. Every state is allowed to make their own form. So this is the Wisconsin form. The Minnesota form is a little bit different, but it's got all the same components. So again, not important to really read this, but I'll kind of say, I'll give you the main points of this is that, you'll have, maybe you can see my cursor here. I decided to do the Thomas Friant. So I've got it written in here. All archaeological sites in the state of Wisconsin and Minnesota are assigned site numbers. So you see below that a site number, a verbal description of where it's located, and we have to figure out what county it fits into. After this, we get the second page. We have classifications that it's, on public land, that it qualifies as a site. It's one site, total of 1. And if you look down at the bottom, it says the historic functions was transportation, water related, and its current function is underwater landscape. So these are also from that white paper that I had showed you on how to list ships and shipwrecks from the National Park Service. So you're picking these out of the column. A lot of times too, it'll be commerce or some other function that you'll choose that may be more appropriate for the shipwreck. On the next page, the areas of significance. So there's multiple ones that go into shipwrecks, but most common is something pretty much like this. It's archaeology, historical, non-Aboriginal, maritime history, and commerce. And then you have to decide what area of commerce it best represents. And there's like 5 or 6 of those that you can choose from under maritime. So you're basically just picking things out of columns. The period of significance is from build to sinking. And then the significant dates are when it when it underwent reconstruction. So whenever it kind of changed, it's kept the same hull lines, but it changed its outfit and how it was set up. And those represent major eras in the ship's history. And of course, the builders at the bottom. And then geographical information, information on who's putting the form together, and then the property owner, and in this case, anything that's owned by that's on state bottomlands is owned by the state and comes under the Wisconsin Board of Commissioners of Public Lands. So he is the owner of the shipwreck, and it shows up on our forms that way. Again, the history, the site description go in there, and I'm not going to show you those. It's just words, lots of words on pages, multiple words on multiple pages, and then some pictures at the end. So again, significant pictures. These are ones we pulled out of a video that Ken had provided us with. They were better than the video that we collected when we were out on the site. We went to record this with Tom Crossman, and so he has not only ROV where he's getting video, but he also has a multi-beam sonar on his, and so we're able to take measurements and get information from the video and the paired with the multi-beam. So these are from Ken's video. I just did some screenshots, which was okay. The binnacle here, and then this that has the fishing licenses, which are still pinned to the wall of the cabin, and some net floats in the background, the bell. So it's kind of a representation of what you'll see when you go to the shipwreck site. Any historical images follow this. So we have the various iterations of the ship, which come on subsequent pages, and then a map that's able to have a north arrow, and then also has a scale and shows where the shipwreck site is located. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple examples of other ones that we've done in Wisconsin, try to give you ideas of various reasons why these were listed, and hopefully this will again help you understand. It took me a lot of years to kind of understand what I was doing and why I was doing it. So hopefully I'm describing this well enough to you, or you don't have, and I'm making it less clear than mud. So this is the Galley Nipper. So the Galley Nipper is actually the oldest shipwreck known shipwreck in Wisconsin. So it was built in 1832 and was built for Michael Dowsman of the John Jacob Astor American Fur Company. So it had been based out of Mackinac, and it was used to carry supply goods to Milwaukee. Really in its formative years. They also had a trading post that they had set up in Green Bay, and this ship serviced there. It was actually called the Nancy Dowsman when it was originally built. They cut it in half, lengthened it by 32 feet, and then they renamed it Galley Nipper, which means biting fly. So why is this significant? We say, okay, well, if you had to guess, you might say that it's the oldest shipwreck in Wisconsin. So, hey, there you go. That might make it significant. But the significance actually comes with its tie to Michael Dowsman. And if you've driven through Wisconsin, you'll know the Dowsman name is pervasive. So there's we have not only the city of Dowsman, which is outside of Waukesha, near Milwaukee. We have almost every city has a Dowsman Street or a Michael or a Talbot, or they're all of this, the cities, streets in the cities, and even in Green Bay are named after this family. If you've ever been to Villa Louis, which is a state historic site that was owned by Hercules Dowsman, because we all name our first child Hercules. But that was his first child and carried on the fur trading tradition as the frontier moved westward. And so that historic site is at Prairie du Chien, and so the fur warehouse is still there, the Dowsman warehouse, and that's Dowsman Avenue there too. So it's really this tie to the Dowsman family and what they did in Wisconsin. Not necessarily that it's the shipwreck itself, but its use for development of the new frontier at that point. Okay, so this is another shipwreck in shallow water. This is the Appomattox. It's off Milwaukee. It's in 15 feet of water right off the beach. It's kind of broken up, but there's 3 football fields full of wood on the bottom, oak on the bottom. And you think, okay, well, this one doesn't have integrity. It actually does. The entire shipwreck is represented there. It's just kind of fallen apart and broken up, and actually is quite scattered quite a bit, almost all the way up to Fox Point, and just massive amounts of wood. You can see how shallow this is. And this one is actually nominated, as the largest wooden bulk steamer at the time, and was lost in an industrial smog off Milwaukee. So it has those type of connotations, but it's tied to Davidson, James Davidson, the shipbuilder out of West Bay City, Michigan. And this is considered the work of a master. So he was an innovative shipbuilder. He was building the largest wooden vessels at a time when all of his contemporaries had changed to steel. And he had the foresight to buy large tracts of forest and keep them for himself. And so, so he was able to compete and build these vessels at a fraction of the cost of everyone else that was having to retool and build out of steel. So, so this one is named important because of its engineering. Okay, so this is another one. This is the Major Anderson. It's in very shallow water. It's off of Two Rivers Point, so Raleigh Point, Molash Creek. It was discovered by a power parachutist named Susie Johnson. This is her shoe. And she was flying over one day and discovered the shipwreck had emerged from the sand after a storm. She got a hold of us, and we said, no, we didn't know of a shipwreck there. So we went to check it out and put a tape measure on it. And given the location and the length and dimensional measurements of it, we were able to put the name Major Anderson to it. So interesting ship. It was built at the beginning of the Civil War. In fact, on the Great Lakes, there were 4 different ships named Major Anderson. He was, Major Anderson was the commander of Union forces at Fort Sumter. So everyone wanted that name. And but this was the biggest one, and apparently had a mural of the Battle of Fort Sumter on its stern, and flew this enormous American flag from the vessel as well. That none of that is important either. Again, it goes into the history of it. But what is significant about it is it's tied to the Great Chicago Fire. So in fact, it's not even the Great Chicago Fire. It was all of these fires that swept across the landscape in the fall of 1871. So this ship got caught in, and it would have looked nothing like this, by the way. There was such dense smoke that was out over the lake that they had difficulty navigating, and that's why they came ashore. So it's ties to major events as well. But also the ship has integrity. So all of it is there. It's a ship entirely buried in sand. In fact, one of the problems with Raleigh Point is the quicksand that's there. It eats ships. If a ship sailed in there, and we've got 7 or 8 of them that are complete ships buried in sand. So very much intact. And if you can get a hold of it and push on the ship, it kind of oozes in there because it's just stuck in this jelly that's the bottom there. So as far as integrity, great integrity, tied to a major event, kind of interesting history. It was moving lumber at the time of the Civil War, but you can tie it to a major event, which is kind of cool. We also have typology, ships that are listed for typology. So I think a lot of you know about canalers. So canalers were a specific type of vessel that was built for the Welland Canal. So they were about 140 feet long, 26-foot beam. They met the canal locks, the dimensions of the locks, so you could put more cargo through on a vessel, and so they wanted to figure out the ship size to go through them. And if you take a look right here, there are pins that are around the edge of the bowsprit. They would remove those pins, and then they would rotate the bowsprit and jib boom up into the rigging so that when they dropped it in the lock box, it wouldn't get broken off. And the same with the cat heads that held the anchors off. Those also would be rotated in, and the davits off the stern. So there were unique features of these canalers. So this is the Walter B. Allen, which was lost in 1880. That's listed for a typology. Scow schooners are another topology that we have tried to, again, understand. kind of a handyman special. All of them were a little different. This is the Ocean Wave. If you look very carefully, it has a figurehead of a screaming eagle. Right here where I'm circling, I'll move my cursor out of the way. And when we first went down to look at it, there was actually red paint that was on the tongue of the eagle and a blue eye. That of course is all covered up with quagga mussels now, but this also again shows sort of the breadth of the type of vessel, the scow schooner. And these little schooners were constructed not in major shipyards, usually on the shores of rivers, hinterland communities, and they were mostly used by immigrants that were coming here, just getting into the maritime trade and using these vessels as a way to earn a living for their families. And a lot of times they work their way up. So, you'd see one family member come, build a vessel, start using it, and then make another one and bring family members over that would continue to use these ships. So it's kind of really cool story. I give a whole presentation on it seems like every scow schooner in Wisconsin has someone named Johnson attached to it. So yeah, so it's kind of funny, these Norwegian sailors, but all of them are named Johnson. And again, not all of them are in deep water. This one's in 3 feet of water. Of course, we're using rebreathers in 3 feet of water, which seems a little crazy, but we've gotten blown off another wreck. And it's also about being opportunistic. So as soon as something washes out of the sand, we need to be there. We need to be looking at it and understanding it, and understanding if we can again affect the law to be able to protect the shipwreck site. But some of them are very deep, and I talked a little bit about some of these. This is one where we were pushing the limits of imagery. So we tried to list, this is the Senator, and we had tried to list this. The visibility out there is crap. It's just horrible. And we went out on the 3rd of December to look at this. I know that sounds crazy too, but all I can say is Jay Hansen was involved with this. And we went to look at this. We'd gotten numbers from DNR, went to look at the ship, and the visibility was so bad that we couldn't get anything on the video. And so we turned it on to sonar and mosaicked the shipwreck through on the sonar, and this went to the keeper of the register, and he said no. So we had to go back and get additional. He gave us what was called a determination of eligibility, which meant that it was kind of a stay, so the laws would be affected, but he wanted to see more information, and it got sent back to us. And then we had to resubmit again. And so you can kind of see, if I go back and forth, the car elevator is here. And you see the lifeboat off the side. And here we see the car elevator here with all the deck load of Nash automobiles. This sank on the 31st of October, 1929, just a couple days after the stock market crash that led to Black Friday, the stock market crash of 1929. I went back out with Evan Kovacs. And again, you can see the automobiles are still stacked in the hold here in the reflection of his video deck here. And the deck load is gone, but all of them inside are still chained in place, which is pretty interesting. I mean, how did Nash survive the Great Depression? And then also the loss of this 268 vehicles just shortly thereafter. Other sites that we list are not necessarily listed as individual shipwrecks. We can list them as either historical districts or landscapes. So this is Jacksonport. A lot of these buildings still exist today on landscape in Jacksonport, and this is Lakeshore Park, where they've banked a lot of the wood. You can see the district here. So Lakeside Park is here. We have 3 shipwrecks, the Cecilia, the Perry Hannah, and then way up here we have the Annie Doll. And then it's associated with 3 different lumber piers. So the Reynolds Pier, the Lemire Pier, which was mostly used for fishing, but did some lumber, and then the Hibbard Pier, which is the oldest one and the finest built. And so it's a combination of shipwrecks that were lost at this lumber port. They came in, they got stuck here during a storm. They have very similar stories. And the piers themselves. And so we listed this as a district. Here's Annie Dahl, just kind of a look at that. And I call this pier henge. So because there's just post after post after post that's driven in, and this is part of the Reynolds Pier. So all of this is listed as a district. Then we have ones that didn't quite make it. And again, not all of them are eligible. This one's called the Lady Ellen. This is a scow schooner, which is in the Anape River in Algoma. So it does have the integrity. All the pieces of the shipwreck are there. But in riverways, in Wisconsin, I'm not sure how it is in Minnesota, but the landowners, the adjacent landowners, have ownership out to the center line of the river. And the adjacent landowner was a defunct cookware factory. And, it had gone into receivership and the bank owned it. And then somebody else took over the loan from the bank. It was crazy. We could not figure out who owned the property to decide whether they were interested in, and we had permission in listing the property. So this one did not get listed. And then another one that we struggled with, and this is probably going to amaze you, is the Christmas tree ship. Rouse Simmons. So you're like, well, that's the most famous shipwreck in Wisconsin. Maybe, but it really had nothing to do with Wisconsin at all. And it just happened to sink here. So they had gone up to Thompson, Michigan. They'd picked up a load of evergreens. They were sailing down to Chicago, and they just happened to get stuck in a storm here. It really had nothing to do with our history. And so we struggled with this one to be able to, and Christmas trees didn't qualify as a type of commerce. So, but when you look back further, it was its association with the lumber baron Charles Hackley, who owned the ship for 26 years of its 43-year history, and the tie to that lumber trade between Muskegon, Michigan, and Chicago, just after the Great Chicago Fire, which was enough to add this to the register. Okay, so let's talk a little bit closer to home, especially for you guys, the Madeira. So a couple of years ago, I was working with, well, Phil and others here, I guess, that on a project to look at the National Register nomination for the Madeira. So we'd put in to be able to do a sonar study of it to determine if more of the debris field was represented outside of where the boundary for the National Register nomination was. And so the nomination was originally written in 92. Oops, sorry. I don't think GPS was that great at the time, because once we figured it out, the shipwreck is not even inside the boundary. Crazy. But so that's something to go back and look at. The other thing is that now there's a qualification under the National Register for landscapes. So let's talk about the point. So, you can use natural entities, natural landscapes to define the wreck site. So is the Madeira site just the Madeira site, or is the rock that it struck part of this? We can also look further. So here's your National Register nomination from 92. So very different looking one. And again, is it the shipwreck? And then how far do you go down? Is it just the shipwreck site? And is it the point? Or is it the lighthouse that resulted because of the shipwreck striking the point? So now when you look at the landscape, what does it include? And would this qualify for that? And so in our report that we wrote as part of the grant that GLSPS put in for, we spelled that out and turned that into David Mather for consideration. I'm not sure what was decided. Maybe one of you knows. But then when I was looking around, it was kind of interesting. So there's split rock. So this would be, if you're looking at the landscape, the entire thing from the point all the way down here. And then do you include the salvage area that's down in the bay? Maybe that's also included in it as well. And we would spend a little bit of time down there looking to see if there were any remains of the shipwreck that weren't salvaged and that were left. And we did find some evidence of that. But what's kind of fun is that I went to a maritime cultural landscape symposium that the Park Service put on in 2015, and the cover of this is Split Rock Lighthouse, right? So they think that this qualifies as a landscape. So I think, and I thought that was funny that after we wrote our recommendation that I found this on the cover, because they think that they must think that it qualifies as that, or that's just a pretty lighthouse on Great Lakes shoreline, and that's why they wanted to include it. I don't know. So here's our report. And if you haven't read that, I can make that available to you. And again, we spelled out a number of different things minimally to do an update and rewrite the National Register of Historic Places nomination, which shouldn't take that much, to include the new boundary, which would actually have the shipwreck in it and the debris field, to determine whether it should be elevated to either a district or a landscape, and then to rewrite it as that. So these are possibilities for you if you wanted to do another legacy grant to do this. And I think that it would be really beneficial, first of all, to protect the shipwreck because it's not even inside the boundary. But also, you're so fortunate in Minnesota to have these legacy grants. So we don't have anything like that in Wisconsin. These are available on a quarterly basis. They're small project based, and you could really parse this down into individual workable sections if you wanted to work on this. But I definitely think it needs to be done, at least that updated form. And then from there, whether you want to go further and explore whether it could qualify as a landscape. Okay. And the other big question that everybody had for me, in fact, Phil brought this up to me. He's going to corner me at the Gales of November conference and said, let's talk about, remember, was it WUA? And said, let's talk about the meteor. What's going on with the meteor? So, 2016, I was asked to do an update to the National Register of Historic Places nomination for meteor. Okay, so it had been written at the local level of significance. Okay, so that's kind of the lowest level of on the tier. You cannot list a ship as a national landmark unless it's first listed at the national level of significance. So the difference between the form and the scholarship that goes into these nominations is very vastly different from 1974 to 2016. So we rewrote it, and Jim Delgado put money into this. So he gave a person, and we worked with Roger Pellet. So the person's name was Dee Dee Marks. So, and she still works for Delgado, although he's left NOAA, and so is she, and they're both working for Search. So we rewrote this together. I presented it. Sarah Blank came with me, and we went in front of the board. and it passed the scrutiny of escalating it to a national level of significance. The next step then was to write a letter to ask for review for landmark, and it stagnated either at the city or at the museum. And I can't tell you which because I don't know, because I wasn't involved with that. I know that I think there were funds that were being raised in order for this. I know there was a lot of hype in the media, local media especially, about wanting this. But I think because of personnel changes and changes also at the city level, that it didn't go through. Okay, so now, and I just want you guys to know this, I pushed this, and I pushed it at the local history conference, Wisconsin Local History Conference. The city manager from Superior was there, and I had a discussion with him, and I had a discussion with the SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Officer, and we are going to write a letter. The SHPO, the State Historic Preservation, I'm writing it, but her name will go on it. And we are going to ask for that review. Okay. So that'll take about 2 years, they're thinking, maybe a little bit more once it's turned in. And then it will we'll have to hire a consultant because it'll be a conflict of interest for me to be involved. But Delgado could be involved, and he said he wanted to, and Dee Dee still wants to be involved. So, and it sounds like we're able to put some small level grants together for the city also, which will help them with to make this happen. So this is a long game. It's going to be about 10-year process, but just so you know, it's moving again. Okay. So we all can be happy about that. There were some questions I think everybody's had with me is, does it have to be returned to the Frank Rockefeller? No, it doesn't. And I think that's why I gave you that example of the Thomas Frank. Okay, is because you can say it has the same hull lines, because it does. It may have different superstructure, because it does. And you just have to list on the form the changes. This is what it looked like during these years. This is how it differed in the next couple years, and then so on and so forth. And it's fine. And it is, we all know that this is a treasure, and it's worthy of protection. And by not having it listed as a national landmark is a shame, because there's money that's available for these landmarks. So where you all are struggling to fundraise and so on, it shouldn't happen. You should be able to rise to the cream of the crop when you're applying for these grants, like the National Maritime Heritage Grant, which should go on your list, to be able to get major funding for restoration work on this. Okay. And especially the engine, and the fact that this engine is the original to the ship, 1896, that this makes it extra special. And again, this should be easy money to get. But the problem is that the people who should have been there moving it along didn't know what they were doing. So anyway, we've got the cart rolling again. So we will get it going. Okay. So I've got a quiz for everybody. So you turn on your microphones. Okay. I've got a couple different things. So we have a number of national landmarks in Wisconsin. Okay. So I want you guys you can maybe do a show of hands or however you want to do it. So Cobia, what do you think? Landmark, not landmark? Come on, turn on your mics. This is almost over. What do you think?
How about a landmark?
Landmark, yes. Okay. The Tug Ludington. This is a Army Corps of Engineers tug that's in Kewanee. Landmark, not landmark?
No.
Not landmark.
I don't think so.
Landmark, yeah. So this was involved in World War II. So yeah, that's a landmark.
No, definitely.
Okay,
Mm.
the Car Ferry Badger.
I've been on that. I like it. Make it a landmark because it's from Ludington
Yeah,
or Manitowoc.
landmark. Yeah, it is
Yes.
definitely a landmark. In fact, it's the most recent landmark. Okay, so no longer in Lake Michigan, but this was this is the Dennis Sullivan's, the tall ship for the state of Wisconsin.
That-
Landmark, not
Yeah.
landmark.
That's it.
Landmark.
That's definitely.
Not landmark. It is a replica ship.
Oh.
So yeah, so these are kind of fun little things to think about. So this was built in
Good
the
question.
1980s. So
Where did
yeah.
it go from Lake Michigan?
I think it's gone out to the East Coast and it's working at a sailing school there. So Pure Wisconsin couldn't afford the maintenance on it anymore, and it has not. It's still sailing, just not here. So,
Okay.
all right,
Sad.
so that's it. That's all that I have for you guys. I hope I haven't like bored you to death or lost like everybody out of this. But
Not at all.
hopefully learned a little bit too.
Mm.
And if you do have questions, again, I can stop sharing screen here if I can figure out how. And gosh, I don't even know how I would do that. So can you make me stop sharing? Or go stop share.
There you
So
go.
and
Get it.
if you have any questions, please ask. I hope I made this clearer than mud. It's kind of hard concept to understand. But maybe you can understand what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and you can come on board and help me do it too. So
That's right. Yeah, I definitely great presentation, Tammy. I appreciate that, Tamara. And man, I didn't know half of this stuff, and I wish I could attend a lot more of your presentations. My time it doesn't allow me to, but I sure enjoy it whenever I do get a chance. And you always have so much information. It's like an information overload for my brain anyway, but
and at 9 o'clock at night, yes.
and at 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
Perfect.
Are there any questions, especially about Meteor and Madeira? I'm happy to ask them and have an open
Well-
discussion for a few minutes too, if you want to.
We do have one of the board of directors here, Dale Cozio, for the SS Meteor, and myself, which would be the preservation chairman of the project since 2005, and we always been interested in that landmark status, and I know, and I really appreciate you taking the reins and bringing it back as far as the process. And I think Dale, I don't know if you had any comment on that, but he serves on the board of directors for the Superior Public Museums, or is it just a Meteor that you serve on the board?
No, it's for SPM,
SPM,
but
so it's all the
Meteor
museums.
is kind of my special constituency.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe you can try to drive that home so that maybe Tamara's efforts are not in vain. Of course, she has done a lot of she's done a lot of footwork on this, and we want to continue with that.
We certainly do.
And it's not about throwing Melissa under the bus, because I don't think that I don't think anybody knew what they're doing. So one hand also thinks the other one's doing something else, because
Right.
Ultimately it's the city of Superior's responsibility. And so point fingers at parks, point fingers at the mayor. Anyway, it didn't go anywhere. So
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
was doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So we got the ball moving. So we're getting there.
Great. Yeah. So you got it going. Is there anything else on our end that we need to continue with that, or is
There
it
will be letters of support, but those will come later.
okay?
So
Okay, great.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll look forward to seeing that. That'll be great. But I'm
All right,
glad
all
it's
right,
moving
Tammy,
along.
let's pivot to Madeira.
Madeira.
I talked
okay.
with I will tell you, I talked with David Mather after you and I had a long conversation about landscape versus district, and I kind
Yeah.
of got the Heisman on it. So, what
Okay.
would be, we can talk maybe offline about what next step would be, but I'm finally coming out of new job hell, so I might be able to put some effort to it.
Mhm.
But as we start,
Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
just so you know, landscapes are, a lot of people are very fearful of those because they don't understand them because they're new.
Well,
So we could try
absolutely. You
something
warned
new.
me. You
Yeah,
warned me, and I will tell you, I got the Heisman. Now,
absolutely.
so that we may have to start a little smaller and
Yeah,
be deliberate and say, how we do some incremental change, even if it's just getting it back on the register. So, or renewal.
yeah.
I guess that's the statement, or
It's
whatever is
on the
most accurate.
register.
Right.
We just do a correction notice.
Right.
That would be the easiest thing. The question is whether you want to do a grant for that or whether you just want me to do it. And like I can write that in my sleep tomorrow.
Oh,
With the corrected, just say,
Data.
here are
Right.
the corrections, submit this. They do not have to go to committee. It goes, their office needs to
It's
just
fast
submit
track.
it to National Park Service. Okay.
Got it.
So, so we do that for them as a gift. And and then after that you write the proposal for a to I don't know, your choice, either a landscape or district.
Yeah. It's the
And
phase 2 that we had
um
talked about. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Okay.
and do one or the other because I think it needs to be more inclusive than just the shipwreck.
I agree.
And I can talk to them about that too. But yeah, write the grant proposal, take their money, and write that. It shouldn't be that much work. It's just a matter of repackaging the information. Someone here also could beef up the history a little bit better. Again, it's kind of written and in maybe bullet point form or a little bit better than that, and you can maybe fill in some of the details a little bit more, and someone might be interested in doing that. Doesn't require diving. You can do it in the winter. Just a little bit of research and wordsmithing, and just polish it a little bit. And then with the site description, we just need to write what other things we found in the debris field and why we're asking for a much wider boundary.
Right.
And again, if somebody wants to do that, I can give them a lot of examples. In fact, we've put all of our National Register nominations up on Walter Lewis's site, which is Maritime History of the Great Lakes.ca. It's a huge thing. But if you do want to look at National Register nominations and find them a lot easier than on the National Park Service website, you can go there and look at them. And there are districts, and we have not done a landscape because our SHPO is afraid of landscapes as well. But again, and Minnesota's always been more progressive. We can,
Push them. What, can you repeat that website one more time for me? Sorry,
Maritime History of the Great Lakes.ca. It's a Canadian site for it's all spelled out. And it's Walter Lewis's site for the Association for Great Lakes Maritime History. So it's if you haven't been there and you're not using it, you're missing out because there's a lot of stuff there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Miss
But
chatting
all
with
of
you.
our
Thanks for being here
nominations
for
are
us.
up there.
yeah,
No problem.
yeah. Thanks. Thanks.
But I think these are like little impactful ways that you guys can make a difference,
Mhm.
And it just really won't take a whole lot of effort. And I mean, like these correction forms, stupid, and hey, I'm a member. I'll do that with my membership, right?
There you go.
A committee of one, right? Yeah. So
Perfect.
but maybe writing that correction is enough to get your foot in the door to have a conversation and say, hey man, this is kind of missing out.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I went into the office and felt like I said, got the Heisman. So we'll work
Yeah,
it.
like I said, they're scared of landscapes, so nobody really quite understands them. And once you've been doing something the same way for so long, it's hard to change it.
Got it.
Okay. So is that something that we set up a meeting with them, or do we do more of the paperwork first and then set up a meeting?
I'll reach out. What I'll do is I'll just reach out to David Mather and ask him if he made those corrections or if he
Okay.
wants me to do it.
Oh, okay.
And then that starts the conversation. And then once you make, because I mean, that's really what needs to be corrected at this point.
Yep.
And Minnesota also, just so you know, has a mandate that all National Register properties be re-examined every 10 years.
Okay.
So that doesn't mean you have to rewrite the nomination. It just means you have to do something. Yeah, they have to be looked at, whether it's there or not there, whether the building's burned down, you know.
Mhm, mhm.
And or
Okay.
yeah, somebody put the wrong windows in the house, you know, that I think that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So but that gives you that, again, that's in their workflow.
Mhm.
So just say, you know what, we're way more than 10 years in doing anything on this. It
Yep.
shouldn't be reviewed. And what should we do?
Yep.
And I think that's a way of having the conversation.
Mhm.
So anyway, I can push that, I think, from the other side, because
Okay.
you know,
We would
just say,
appreciate that, you know, whatever you
yeah,
can do.
yeah,
You
and
probably
then
know more
and
how
from
to push
there,
him.
yeah, just say, you know, well, I'll definitely make the correction if he hasn't already.
Okay.
So like I said, if it was somebody coming to me and saying, hey, all these numbers are wrong,
Mhm.
I would make the correction and just do that. But I don't know that they've done that. So should I trust that they did their work?
No.
Oh.
Sorry.
I would have to answer that as a no.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll ask. So otherwise, he's asked me to present at SHA at the site of historic archaeology, and I think I might, if he pushes me on this, I might present the Madeira.
All right.
Nice. Nice.
Embarrass him at his own conference, right? So a symposium.
When is
Well, we did
that?
all this work and we discovered the shipwreck wasn't in the boundary. Yeah.
Just
Wow.
let us know when we need to show up in as a crowd.
It's in
Yep.
New Orleans, so I'm sure it'll be, yeah.
Oh, ways
Oh,
away.
just around the corner then. Got it.
Fun time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Road trip.
Yeah.
I can see the road trip coming on. Yeah. All right. Well, any more questions for Tamara? I'm sorry. I always call you Tamara. You know, it's more the professional way to do it. I know we call you Tamara on the offline kind of, but professionally, I use your full name. I hope you don't mind.
However
Tammy,
you want to call it.
I've got a question for you, Steve here. So when I saw the 3D mapping that I think Andrew showed me, and or someone, and when you do that bigger field and that, I don't think the drawing that I made was that far off. You know, I think it could be
No,
a matter of perspective. But when I saw that, I
absolutely.
thought, wow, that really supported it. So
Yep,
I was happy to see that.
absolutely. Yeah. I don't think
Good.
it's that far off either.
Good. And
So,
thanks again for
and
the pictures
again,
you took.
at the time, that was what was required. So was that there was a drawing, because if you think about, oh, what's the fish tug that's in that's off Bayfield or Basswood Island? You drew that one as well, and
At
that
the
was
Finn
required.
McCool?
Is that the Marquette? No.
No,
Oh, that was a freighter.
The one right
let's
by shore, the Finn McCool?
no,
Oh.
it's off of Basswood Island.
Ugh.
I don't know. Did I do that? I did the Moonlight over
That
there,
one
and I
too.
did the Marquette. Yeah.
So many of them, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they're
But,
good.
yeah.
And I really appreciated the pictures that you took when we did those when we did all that underwater research for the book.
That was a
They're
fun
really
trip.
good.
That was a
It
fun trip.
was, yes. And the boat's still running. It's
Mm.
even
Ah, there
better
we go.
today than when we had it. Gee, Wally's.
I think Jack has one of the pictures behind him. Yeah.
Oh, there it is. That's one of yours, Tam?
Yep, that's one.
I don't know, maybe. It looks like Steve, isn't
Look
it?
at that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
What?
You can tell
Yeah.
by the fins.
I always thought that looked like Steve's, but then I said Tammy, then I thought somebody that was working with Tammy, but Steve
Yeah, it
was
was
working with
Steve.
Tammy, so. Yeah.
And I was swimming
Cool.
too fast for her camera outfit. You had that huge camera conglomeration, and we came up and you said you were really feeling fatigued because I was swimming too fast, and I thought, oh no, we should have talked about that before we went down.
Oh, we still got some good pictures. It was fine.
We did.
Yes, we did.
It was a lot of fun.
And thanks for coming, Tammy. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think Andrew,
Supper,
I think
but-
Andrew just got it. It was the TH camp.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Just go away.
Yep, that's right. Camp. Yeah, great. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do. Yeah, we kind of fall off the edge and don't get this done, and we should, and it takes people like you to get her going again. You know, we appreciate that. Believe me, we have no idea how we appreciate it.
Especially for Meteor, there was a lot of work that went into that, and in order to get to the next step.
Yep.
And it just I needed to have it happen too. Otherwise, it would have felt wasteful of my time.
Yeah, it was definitely a hiccup there, and I'm glad we had the discussion over at the symposium. We wanted to talk about that, and it was on my mind all night, and I didn't want to, mess up anybody's good time for the night, but yet bugged you.
It was funny because I think it was WUA that you wanted to talk, and I had just come from local history, so that was fresh news.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was
Perfect.
was very
Perfect timing.
guy.
Yeah.
So.
Very good timing. Yeah, I'm glad. But anyway, thank you. I don't want to keep you any longer, but I'm sure you want to get on with your evening. And thanks again, Tamara, for your great, amazing presentation. Like I say, I learned a lot of things, and we know what direction we want to go into. I really appreciate that. And I think everybody's kind of questioned out, but again, thank you.
Good night, guys.
Good night, Tamara, and thank you all for joining us tonight. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks. Good night. Well done, Phil.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
All right. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later.